Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. Welcome to everyone who's new. Welcome back to the people who are individuals who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is bring about conversations of a psychological, emotional, and mental health paradigm. We try to do that as often as we can, usually several times per week. Sometimes even daily, but my schedule isn't exactly where I'd like it to be daily as often as I'd like. And we've got over 750 of these available for your listening pleasure on a variety of topics. And if you are looking to get out of a controlling relationship, whether that be platonic, romantic, or family dynamics, this is a great audio for you. If you are looking to work with someone to do that and kind of get to a place where you are more focused on moving forward in your life, which is something I think nearly every person can benefit from. There's no absolutes, but nearly everyone can benefit from moving forward from things that aren't healthy for them. In any event, please feel free to reach out. There's a couple ways to do that at PO Perception on Twitter or in the About Me section of this YouTube page. Either one will get you information related to getting in contact with me, and you'll get in contact with me or a member of my team, and then we can start working together. Would love to make the second half of 2021 as useful and valuable for you as we can possibly be. The first thing when you're dealing with a controlling relationship is these individuals will use guilt. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't times in life where we should be guilty. However, as a society and culture, we have become very easy to manipulate, and the boundary between what's ours and what is another person's responsibility is very blurry. A lot of times, personal responsibility is something that people don't want to take because they have difficulty understanding the actions they take and the consequences. Many times, people that have been through trauma have a childlike way of dealing with their issues, and therefore what happens is they rationalize bad behavior and then they blame other people and then project that blame into their relationships. And so if you hadn't have done this, then I wouldn't have done that, and then all of a sudden you feel guilty for things that aren't yours. And that happens a lot more, and especially if a person has tendencies toward dark triad personality disorders or personality archetypes, or if they are narcissistic, or if they are emotionally or mentally immature. Guilt is a way that they will use to control and manipulate a situation. The next is isolation. So, a person who is trying to control a relationship doesn't want the other party to have dissenting opinions of them or the situation they're in. Therefore, they will try to isolate that person from any support system that is going to potentially cause them to question the sincerity, authenticity, or value of the relationship as a whole. And so that isolation mentality often leads people to a situation where things become very unhealthy for them in quite a number of ways. And ultimately, once a person's isolated, it's hard to make or reconnect old connections. This can be extremely difficult, and especially if you don't want to admit that you've been isolated, or you've permanently damaged, or you perceive that you've irreparably damaged the support system and relationships you had prior. Next thing is a toxic relationship. The person in said relationship is going to be very critical. So if a person doubts themselves or the authority or value they have as a person, they are going to be very, very likely to stick with their potential abuser or the controller or the manipulator. This is because if I doubt my value as a person and I give extra credence or more credence than I should to the criticism that another person gives, then all of a sudden I have a negative view of myself, and in moving forward from something that is unhealthy becomes increasingly difficult, if not virtually impossible, depending on the perception of the person who is having that experience. The next thing is charm. So a person is going to use charisma and charm in order to control a relationship. In other words, if a person believes that they are extra charming or charismatic, and then therefore they project those things that the other party, the controlled party, likes, then all of a sudden that person has been disarmed because they've had enough serotonin, dopamine, and positive emotional hormones released in their brain to make them think that this person is actually good when they're not. And a person who actually has studied the psychology of how to win someone over at any length, and most controlling individuals do this to at least some degree, will eventually be able to kind of hit the buttons of the other party without making it seem like that's what they're doing. Emotions will come in cycles, and so part of the brain scrambling that comes with a controlling individual is the realization that if you never know what's coming from me emotionally, then it's hard for you to prepare and predict what I do. Therefore, a controlling person is going to try and be as emotionally not volatile, but switching as possible, so that predicting their actions and patterns becomes more difficult. If a person can't predict how a person is going to react, they're going to err on the side of caution to avoid conflict, thereby allowing the controlling individual to get away with negative behavior on a more consistent basis. Using threats, verbal, nonverbal, physical, or isolatory threats can also be a way that a controlling individual maintains their control. If a person feels threatened, they're less likely to stand up for themselves, their rights, or their value. And so if a person is continually threatened on a regular daily, weekly, or monthly basis, they eventually will back down on things that were previously important to them, not realizing they're losing their self-autonomy in the process. The next is their love is conditional. So true love, which is actually very rare, and a shockingly low number of people in the world actually experience it from the purity at which it is supposed to be or can be experienced, is without condition. It's without expectation. So the more controlling a person is, the more conditions they're going to put on the love that they show another person. When a person is performing almost like a circus animal, they don't realize that they're trading compliance and obedience for the perception of love, and that can be extremely difficult and damaging. The last thing is brainwashing a person. And this happens subtly. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's not necessarily hypnotic in nature. But if a person is conditioned to believe a narrative that another person is giving, over time they start to believe the story, and it becomes their subconscious leaning. Therefore, the person is incapable or unwilling, or a combination of both, to see the truth in a situation. And especially if a person wants to believe something, they're more likely to engage in that belief if it's going to continue the narrative of them having the relationship they desire. So hopefully this is helpful, and I can be of service to you in the future. Till next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.